Hello, everybody. So we're on week 2 of BlockEats, and this week we're going to talk about honoring your hunger. So whether or not you're a chronic dieter, your body has strong biological mechanisms that get triggered when your body doesn't get the energy it needs from food. There's strong physical triggers, and there's also psychological triggers, which we'll talk about another day. But these triggers result in a very strong desire to eat. Because we need food for survival, our bodies have developed very strong, very smart ways to get us to eat. So if you've been giving away your autonomy around food, following a strict diet plan, your eating might be tied to those rules instead of any cues from your body like hunger, fullness, satisfaction. Instead of asking yourself, am I hungry? Am I full? You might be asking yourself, is it time to eat? Do I deserve to eat? Okay, so now it's story time. You guys have to let me know if you care about my stories and want to hear them or not. Anyway, story time. So way back before even my Fitness Pal, there was some food tracker. I don't even remember what the name of it was, but it didn't have any like scan the barcode or things that were automatically uploaded into it. I had to meticulously put in the food I was eating and all the stuff, all the information, right? And I had this sort of rigid plan that I was trying to follow. And I would get to the end of the day, I'd be like, okay, I have 7 carbs left. What can I eat that's 7 carbs? Okay, a fourth of a piece of bread. Or, I'm going to lick this strawberry or whatever. I was definitely not listening to my hunger cues. I wasn't eating because I was hungry. I wasn't thinking about, oh, I need this many carbs to fuel an early morning workout. It was just purely following a diet that was set for me by I don't even know who. So I have definitely been there. Your body is very smart. If your body can't trust that it's going to have access to food when it needs it, it will often overeat when you do have access to food. And constantly ignoring your body's cues of hunger often cause that hunger to atrophy. You can't feel that you're hungry anymore unless you get to that extreme level of hunger. And often when your hunger cues atrophy, your satiety cues atrophy as well. So now not only are you not feeling when you're hungry, when you do eat food, you're not feeling when you're full. Body needs to know it's going to have consistent access to food. If your body doesn't trust you right now, then you have to work on rebuilding that trust. Now, hunger can look different from person to person. We often think about that gurgling, gnawing feeling in your stomach or your stomach growling as a signal of hunger. But hunger can look a lot of different ways for different people. Hunger might look like lightheadedness, difficulty concentrating, pain in your stomach, irritability, feeling faint, you might get a headache. So start to notice this week what your hunger feels like to you. I'm curious if you have different sorts of hunger signals. If you do, leave those comments down below because I'd like to hear them. Now, there are some instances when hunger is harder to feel. If you're drinking a lot of calorie-free beverages, diet beverages, energy drinks, that is going to tamp down your natural hunger cues. Or if you've been dieting for a long time, if your life has a lot of stress in it, sometimes it's harder to feel hunger cues. And sometimes if basic needs aren't being met, like sleep, you may not feel as hungry. Although for me, if I'm underslept, I actually feel more hungry. So our bodies have different ways to talk to us. Now, we also need to talk about food scarcity. If you've ever experienced food scarcity or had any trauma around food, your relationship to hunger might be different as well. When I was a child, we were not poor. We always had food in the house, but I still experienced food scarcity. I had an adult that lived in my house who was often unpleasant and asleep on the couch. And even though there was food in the kitchen, I didn't always have access to it. If I went in there and made noise to make myself food, there were negative consequences. So for me, that feeling of hunger felt like an emergency because I didn't know when I would be able to access food next. That caused me to do things like sneak food, hide food, overeat at friends' houses. If I felt that feeling of hunger, it was scary. So as an adult, I would avoid that feeling of hunger. So this is an example of if somebody gives you a diet plan and part of that diet plan is, lowering your calories, and they might even give you some tips. Oh, if you feel hungry, you can drink some water. You can, distract yourself and go on a walk. Well, if somebody tells me that, that diet is probably not going to be successful. My body's still going to freak out whenever I'm hungry and cause me to have that strong desire for food and to search out and eat food. Once I realized this about my own personal history, I was able to deal with it. And now I can feel hunger and it doesn't feel like an emergency because I trust myself to feed myself. Intuitive eating works with all parts of your brain. It understands that there is this strong desire for food, especially if you've been restricting or if you get overly hungry. It understands that your emotions play a part in the decisions that you make around food. So most of the time, we want to eat when we're hungry. But we have to be careful not to make this into a new food rule. This is not the eat only when you feel hungry diet. There are other reasons we eat too. Sometimes we have a taste hunger. This is the example of you're at a birthday party, you've already eaten your dinner, you're not hungry, but there's birthday cake going around and you might have some because you want some birthday cake. That's okay. There might be practical hunger. So this is when you eat knowing that you may not have an opportunity to eat later. So I'm walking into a 4-hour meeting. I'm not going to have a chance to eat and I'm not hungry right now, but I know I probably won't make it through the meeting and be able to concentrate if I don't eat something now. So that makes sense to eat something before I go into that meeting. And there's also emotional hunger. Sometimes we eat when we're bored or lonely, and this gets its own week. So we'll talk more about this later. Most of the time, we want to eat when we're hungry. This week, there'll be 2 resources linked down below for you to take a look at as far as starting to investigate hunger and how satisfying food is when you eat it. I want you to feel what hunger feels like to you and comment below and use the worksheets to get a little more curious about when you're eating, if you're hungry, or if there's something else maybe going on. This is a rating of hunger. This is a hunger scale, and this can give you an idea of what these numbers 1 through 10 can mean. So it goes from overly hungry, 0, 1, 2, 3, to sort of normal eating to overly full. Obviously, some of these sensations are pleasant, some are unpleasant, and some are just kind of neutral. So you can take a look at this hunger scale that's linked below the video. Then you can look at what you're eating. How hungry are you before you start eating? What do you eat? How full are you? And then a satisfaction rating. How did that feel? Are you satisfied? Are you full? Did you enjoy it? Start to pay attention to your own hunger levels. You can do this as often through the week as you want. Remember, I'm here as a resource for you, so leave comments and questions down below. I love to get the feedback. Find me at the gym, or you can always email me directly. I'd love to hear from you guys. So have a great week, and I'll see you at the gym.